To that, just want to mention that the previous project manager, a lot of you are familiar with. Retiring here shortly, and I'll be spearheading this project moving forward. So with that, I can go ahead and get started. Back. Maybe back.
You just tell me what's in
Sounds good. My computer, next slide. Okay, I just, there's a good number of slides here. I want to get through it pretty quickly, but just want to say a lot of the information you see here is a lot of stuff you're familiar with, so I'm going to try and run through it and get to the meat and potatoes towards the end of the presentation. We have a few staff members here, different project holders as well. That we're working with contractor that will help support and some of the questions that are outside of my scope, so then know a little bit more than me. There's some of the members that are here, some of them are not here, construction managers are not here, and also questions, any feedback, we can check in with them, give response. Okay, so as you're most familiar, this is the vicinity of the project. Towards the far left, that's the I-5 freeway, the project location, northeast. Northeast 179, and then east-west, north-south is northeast 29. That's the project location. Okay, so in this presentation, this is an outline of the flow and intent of how I'm going to get through it. Again, first beginning slides that you've seen before, most of you were very familiar, but just wanted to touch on that information. So start with a little bit of the history. Back in 2007, there was periodic comprehensive plan updates given developments at that time, and expansion was continuing north and in this general area. About 2015, the Washington funding package for the I-5 freeway and 179th Street interchange was received, and there was push forward there, which that sort of triggers a lot of development as well. Hot items 2020 urban holding removal. This happened in 2020 to allow more development, about 2,200 acres in this general area. And also to note, pedestrian access code adoption was adopted as well, about 2020. That's some right in the slides. So our understanding, especially when it comes to urban holding, is once it's released, it can't really be reinstated. All the improvements that we're making are comply with the state and development laws as far as development in the area and what's forecasted to come in the future. Conditions are not met specifically for a development moratorium. I know that question some of you may have, but to that, we're committed to building a safe, efficient application network. Considering all the constraints and pushing forward with best practices and working with the different individuals. So as you know, there's a lot of growth anticipated in this area. It is evolving beyond a small community. I mean, I still drive down there and it feels like a small community, but there's a lot of growth planned. And at this time, the existing roadway and intersection is not anticipated to be able to and commercial developments. So this is a slight animation. I wish I had time to highlight the developments, but it just shows the developments aerial view from the stars. A lot of residential developments, subdivisions, a lot that you see now, some apartments, gardens,
Brian, hold the mic a little closer here.
Yes. So this view shows anticipated developments coming in. Looking ahead. Let's see some of these. Come to so I-5 freeway. These are the we have a multi-family apartment complex there in yellow that's anticipated, and then this is concrete, which is from conversations and significant conversations, meetings, and pre-applications we had with different developers. Active school units. Next to that is a residential subdivision that the red colors for residential subdivisions. You can see across different sizes. This is exactly the scale. Just want to give a good idea on where these are located. And then magenta color is mostly commercial, might be some residential bit around this section here. Mostly commercial with a significant anchor tenants. So this might be a little bit of residential as well. But just want to give an idea of what development areas will be coming in the future. So to that, these are the projects that are anticipated starting from to the west, northeast Delfell. In the middle where the red is, that's the washout interchange work. And then through that is a gap section that we're working together on for. After that, you have the roundabout off the length 26. That's some project as well, and then 15th to the north. Another project there. Right now, this is what we're looking at 2025 spring, which is the spring and the project. We're anticipating construction. So just give a little bit of history again of how we ended up here. Traffic control analysis was performed in the initiation of the project. The existing all-way stop intersection now anticipated into volumes in the future. From that analysis, compare intersection and roundabout. Roundabout was selected for better congestion safety and long-term costs management. So another important point to note, roundabout are projected to have 3 times less fatal increase compared to signals, which is pretty significant. And over a lifetime, so I think the roundabout expected to be about 5 million in savings. Just an important note, I know roundabouts are there's some drivers that might have difficulty with roundabouts, and it's been brought up before. Internally, then have something that we can maybe put in our website. What discussion that needs to happen with this, where we can illustrate how to best drive through roundabouts, what are the best practices are, to kind of help the public kind of navigate what not as familiar with roundabout. But it's internal discussion right now. It's nothing concrete as of yet. So to the left are the images for 29th and 179th intersection. This is the south. See the south side there, north. So development is anticipated to grow as discussed, and currently the roundabout design is going to be constructed as a single line roundabout, but it has the space to be able to expand into a multi-lane roundabout or 2-lane roundabout in the future. But initially, it will have the appropriate right of way needed for that full footprint. It's just project improvements. This is the aerial showing the storm facility, crossing, and sort of the layout of the project. And placing the existing single lane always stop intersection, the roundabout is mentioned. I just want to reiterate that this is a pretty significant project, as you all know. There's two large bridges, it's essentially a bridge project. One to the east here, to the west, that's not shown. Another one to the south over this creek area. There is significant infrastructure going in for this for the project stormwater facility here. There's significant walls, some over 10 feet along these sections. So there's a lot going on, there's a lot of coordination to make all this work. Pre-considerations for environmental impacts. And also the alignment with the roadway to work as intended is also sort of a big part of this. It's the bottom here showing the cross section on the roundabout approach, just to give some idea. And we have 10 used asphalt pad on both sides of the roundabout. So just to mention some of the complexities with construction, this area is hilly, like many of you know, lots of dips and elevation. It's definitely difficult to sort of work through the cut and fill with coordinating with closures and detours and making sure you all have access to properties in this area. In water work is a specific time during the year where we can work in this waterway area, creek area, and that sort of limits the timing for when we can work in this area. Again, two large bridges, one on the west, one on the south. Again, mentioning the walls, pretty large facility spanning from west to the south. I'm going to highlight again the bridges and the walls. So these sections here come up with gaps, but these are bridges. And the red areas are their retaining walls for the project. One get these sections. And of course, the facility will be down here to the southwest. So back to the profile, the red and the green show the current elevation changes. The line in the middle is what the plan is to sort of level it out, improve site distances, especially for driveways in that area. It's safer as traffic moves through there. We'll avoid all those sharp dips and better meets our roadway standards and safer outcome for the area, people traveling through and those who get there. Schedule. This is anticipated to be a 2-year project. The entire staging sequencing at this point cannot be fully confirmed yet with all the different aspects that are sort of going into it. We are committed to sharing updates as soon as possible, and we are keeping in touch with those updates. Out in time. These are some of the ways that we plan to get that out. Email, some of the works better one, the others, other than mention that as well. So construction again for this infrastructure is expensive considering the grade changes and the bridges. Again, project durations about 2 years. Not a complexity, but the terrain, the creek crossing, the in-water work window, making sure that we're working efficiently with access management for properties or businesses in that area. Construction of the roundabout is expected to run from summer 2025, which is where we are now, through spring or summer of 2027. Again, I want to reiterate that there's a lot of moving pieces, and that is the timeline that we're working with. But when it comes to the detail of the staging, can't say it's fully fleshed out yet. We've been focusing on the first stage and fleshing that out and make sure we communicate that. So for the first phase, just want to bring up the detour plan. This detour plan hasn't changed from what you guys have seen before, and from our previous communications. This is the intersection here. So for the north detour, going up 29, 199, down 10 to 50, south, coming back up to 29. Again, focusing on the first stage, this will be the detour that we're anticipating and hasn't changed what you guys have seen before. So again, summer 2025 through spring, summer 2027. Again, it's pretty difficult to see what this project's detailed project schedule would be. From now, looking out 2 years from now, focusing on the first stage. Big part of that is working with contractor and our different stakeholders and getting communication out as soon as we know if there's any changes or construction plan staging changes. Are required when the road is closed for through traffic. So there will be closures for this first initial stage, and I'll get the other side, but detour signs are expected. There's a multitude of signs that we're working with. Here are some that I wanted to include. We want to avoid through traffic coming through this area, only limited to especially for there's two bridges to the west and the south. There won't be necessarily access to local through that closure itself, because we're working through the fields, we're building big bridges. So detouring at that time will be necessary for including local access. There's no real practical way to maintain a safe way of travel when we're constructing new bridges and filling out the cut fill areas to even out the roadway. Roadway will be passable for through traffic for those areas that are not impacted by the fill and cut, and hence figure out what temporary access we need to get to construct for members to be able to access their property. Some of you have seen that already. It will be critical for safety for road closures to be followed. And again, contractor and service providers and adjacent property owners and residents will be in contact with to ensure access at all times, especially for emergency services, school, buses, bus routes, post office, get a little bit more together on these slides. So we are taking extra steps to communicate, keeping all lines open. We're open to, and a big part of this construction, when we get going, we'll be getting feedback from you guys, because we have eyes out there. But we'll be in close communication with our contractor and keep all updates moving along and make sure we're communicating any changes. We've held meetings with some of the service providers, some other ones are planned. We have communicated that we're working on the initial stage and they're aware of that. The detour routes have been sort of communicated at this stage. The response that we've received from them is, we've received your information, but please update us as soon as you know if there's any changes to detour routes and that sort of thing. So we're committed to investigate any issues that come up with our partners and find workable solutions to make sure we're not creating sort of chaos with the different aspects going on. So to get to the proposed initial construction staging, if you yes.
What's in
Yeah, and I'm sorry for your loss, but that's a really good point. So a big part of this, a really significant part of making this work is communication and coordination. Like I mentioned before, we have to be in close contact with some of our emergency services. We have Cressa here that kind of does and they'll touch a little bit more on that. ambulance services, is one of them. And, we'll be keeping updates with them for what the detours are, where they can and can't go, where the full closures are and when specifically they have to detour versus when they'll be able to cut through, given that the grade is, more workable for temporary crossing. But I will, a little bit after this presentation, I'll let Preston sort of get in and what they know for how they understand emergency services to work. We still have more meetings to have. There's a lot of conversations to have, but again, just want to reiterate that the communication and the coordination has to be on point to avoid situations like that. Right. Yeah, and I was gonna say this a little bit later on the slide, but, to that, we're working with, we understand that emails, social media, sending out mail, that can be sort of a slow process, so we're working with our GIS services to try to find a way where we can, update the community and stakeholders mobilely. Hopefully, we can set it up to where we can go on the website or something, and you can see exactly what's going on. If there's any updates, you can sort of just peek in and immediately know. That hasn't been settled yet, but it is something that we're pretty serious about, that we wanna. Right, yes, Go ahead.
We just got done with this new sewer project. Waste project just finished that. And during the course of that project, similar to the mitigation of emergency services access, the postal or postal office did not want to deliver mail in that area. And we had every time visiting the postmaster bring us our mail. So this is going to be even more of disruption. And they leave it up to the letter carriers to decide whether or not they're going to drop our mail out. So expect calls and our mail is not being delivered. You know, and a lot of times when we call the county, they refer us to the construction superintendent. So please make sure that you've got a good construction superintendent that we can interface with who can address these issues.
Mike, if I could, thank you.
I got another question too.
I'm sure you do. My name is Ken Laker. I'm the Public Works Director. Thank you all for being here tonight. Brian, good job so far. I'm just going to ask you to get the mic right up here because we're fighting that noise of those machines back there. So we do want to hear all of your questions, but I think we're just getting into kind of the staging piece. And I know some people want to hear about it, but I'm really sorry for your loss. I want Brian to continue. When we get to the end of the deck, we'll transition into questions and answers. And the other thing, we got people online who can't hear the audience right now. So we're going to try to facilitate that a little bit so they can hear your questions as well. So thank you for the question. I think it's a good concern and we hear you. And I'm going to ask Brian to continue. If you could hold your questions to the end, then we'll get there. Thank you.
Okay, just catch up again with the first staging. So initially, you've seen our initial first stage that we initially sent out. The bridges were going to be the first thing that we wanted to hit the ground running on. From our communications with contractor and getting this started early on the 25th. The initial phase is going to mostly include clearing for utility work. Also clearing near the creek area since we're about in water work window. The bridges would have to come right after that. We anticipate majority of that work will happen next year. Potentially maybe towards the end of the year, towards December, but this is the initial stage we're anticipating. The closures do not change, so the west leg and the south leg will be closed. The north leg and the east leg will be open, which matches our initial staging that we send out. This is a more efficient approach. It's less intensive for the first time around. Lets us work out some of those speed issues and create a smoother process for coordination. So I wanted to give a big view here. So the red areas where the non-closure non-closure areas. So there's areas that declare will require closure and there's areas that will not. For the first phase, construction wise, at least at this time, again, more communication needs to happen. The west section of the north section of this intersection rebuild is anticipated to happen in the first stage. And again, the closures will remain the same as initially proposed. We anticipate about 3.5 months or 4.5 months for this work. Significant construction shouldn't be happening at this stage, but we're essentially setting the stage for some of the bigger work that's going to come later. So to the meat and potatoes. So the first phase of construction, August 25th through December 2025, that's this year. The first closure is expected to begin on the 25th. But you will start seeing activity out there, signage, sort of prepping for this work before then. So again, the west side of the intersection will be closed during the duration, and south side of the intersection will be closed during the duration. Anticipating construction hours will be from 7 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. Monday to Fridays. We are discussing, and it's not concrete, that there may be potential to reopen with intermittent access for about 24 weeks, depending on regulatory approval and the different conversations we have with the service providers and stakeholders. We want to avoid sort of having a constant flipping from closed to open. And that's where it affects, say, the school district and the services. We want to try and keep a pretty significant closure open time. And again, that's still in formation. Occasional Saturday work may be approved. It's not much detail on that. It's just something that we want to point out. And again, communication there is important, and you will start seeing signage, maybe some preliminary clearing, some fencing happening, but closure August 25th. Again, about 3.5 to 4 months for that stage. So subsequent construction phases will follow up. Again, we're focusing on the initial stage, to make sure we iron that out, communicate that clear as to what's. Some of those segments will be fully closed when they're working in some of those areas that may need the road closed. It's possible, given the grade and the construction at that time, through local traffic access will be able to go through. Hoping to limit traffic delays for those properties impacted to about 10 minutes. Again, this is an aim that we're trying to get to. We have to coordinate and get contractor input, but that's the goal. We want to minimize the amount of time we have to wait in case there's anything in construction that's in the way of construction. And construction inspectors will help ensure that some of those dust issues and some of those items that you see out there during construction that you'd like to report and get our attention. Somebody, on that. So we touched on this a little bit, but we haven't had meetings with service providers, with solid waste here, school districts for bus pickup, drop offs, where those locations will be. Again, we're still in coordination, but those a preliminary location for where those are supposed to happen. Discuss detour routing, closures, and what pathways they could expect, given the construction stages we're in. Committed to outreach, working together, and our contract with Cascade Bridge, was a big part of that, and we helped come up with a consistent plan. And committed to investigating issues that may arise. It's a complex project, there's gonna be a lot going on, so again, count on these different media sources and get a possibility to have gas mapping software where we could check on updates more immediately. We encourage residents to report observations. We have my contract with my contact, the construction engineer on this project, me and him will be a big part of coordinating that and working with our contractor, but you have to know what's going on out there and working towards solving that solution. Of course, that involves a different stakeholder. That's pretty much it for my presentation. Let's open up questions now. I think it's a good time to address those. We have a few people in the room again that will help field questions. I don't know if we could just.
Yeah, we'll, if you can come up and queue so you can speak into the microphone, that'd be great. If you would prefer that we bring the microphone to you, we can get our portable one over to you. So just raise your hand and we'll try to get through all the questions in the room. So if you have multiple questions, if you keep it to one for the first round, and we can get through everyone, and then we'll, we have a few folks online who have questions, and then if we have time before we need to give this space back, then we can go into another round of questions.
Cascade Bridge. Yeah.
Wasn't road contract. Surprised it wasn't road contract. Cascade. So,
And I'll mention that it's pretty much a bridge project, given the size, but they have extensive experience. It's not their first go around, but they'll speak in a little bit. That was on the south side?
Yes.
Yeah, so her question was, the bridge on the south side of, the intersection, essentially on 29. Are we going to be driving under that or are we going to be driving over that? And so to answer your question, you'll be driving over that. Yeah. Fill and wall, it'll be over the creek.
For the roundabout. And especially when you go adjust it to 2 lanes, has it been designed large enough for commercial and residential traffic, especially with the fact that we've got semi trucks and trailers coming with this new logistics warehouse just 2 blocks away?
Yes, and I'll field this question to Dave. Yeah, but just to give a general answer on that, so a lot of consideration has gone into the zoning and the types of vehicles that will be maneuvering through that area. So there's been thought put into how trucks will maneuver through there depending on their size. And I'll let sort of Dave touch on that, but know a little bit more than me.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Dave Daly. I'm the County Engineering Construction Division Manager. So I manage the division that runs all of our county capital projects. So this is one of our biggest projects by this year and into next year. Maybe before I answer the question, if I could just we have a lot of folks from the county here tonight to help answer questions. Maybe it'd be helpful. Many of us are kind of in the back. If county folks, can we raise hands just so people can see who we have here. We can do introductions here in a second.
We can't see them.
Okay, we can get them up here in a minute. To answer your question about the roundabout, yes, it's designed to accommodate passenger vehicles, recreational vehicles, heavy semi-truck vehicles, oversized load vehicles. This is done through a few design practices, which involve making sure the geometry is designed correctly, the entrance points and exit points in the roundabout are designed correctly, making sure that we're wide enough to accommodate larger loads than average. So a lot of heavy duty engineering goes into designing these and making sure they're built to accommodate, I'd say just about anything, the exception being like a large windmill. They sometimes just drive right through the middle. So.
Maybe I could kind of add to that just a little bit. I'm Scott Sawyer. I was the project manager. I've spoken to many of you about this project over the years. When we designed a roundabout and you take into consideration with those larger trucks, you have to understand that we don't design those so that they purposefully stay in the lane. They're going to be using both lanes when they go through them. So if you're coming to that intersection, that roundabout next to a truck, you're going to need to let them have that right of way, right? Don't get in there with them, because they're going to take both lanes to make that happen. For now, I understand that. So you're not going to come in at the same time. When it goes, I think the question is, really when it goes to 2 lanes, what's going to happen? I want to make sure you understand that when it expands to 2 lanes, please don't drive in there with a truck right next to you. Okay?
Talking about the traffic management on 29th Avenue specifically during phase 1A. As you know, there's a big housing development going in across the street there. How are you going to manage the construction traffic, not just with the dirt work that's going on right now and will continue after the 25th of August, but all of the building traffic that's going to be happening along with the construction traffic from the project, as well as all of the detour traffic going up 29, right through that. How are you going to manage all of that on a 2-lane country road?
It's a good question. I think, Steve, if you're in the room. Yeah, I just think if you could touch a little bit on the detours and construction staging, and maybe even if we can have Cascade touch a little bit on their thoughts. But it's gonna be a lot of coordination, and we absolutely have to keep in touch and coordinate on a daily basis, especially when it gets heavy like that. But we've had those discussions and we're trying to sort of fit into it. A lot of the reason is we're trying to focus on a stage at a time, so that's why we're focusing on the initial stage. Okay, I think I'll pass that, Steve, if you have a little bit to add.
Kind of getting 2 questions at once there. But my name is Steve Gallup. I'm the Transportation Division Manager, County Traffic Engineer. During stage 1, like the plan showed, the north leg of 29th and then the east leg of 79th will be open. The 2 legs will be closed. So, during those times, we'll have the detours set up, the signs and everything. The development that you asked about that's happening up there right now, that's further north than where we're at. But eventually, the improvements that they're going to be doing on 29th, as well as the improvements we're going to be doing, are going to tie into each other, is the plan. So,
Well, if you take a look at the construction traffic now is going down to the intersection and then to the west or to the east. It's all going to have to go to the north.
That's right.
Along with the residential and the detour.
yeah, that's correct. Yeah. We're gonna all have to get along.
This slide is helpful for my question. You had mentioned that we're kind of delaying on the bridge to start right away, maybe more like the beginning of the year. Could you explain why the south and west end will need to be closed until January if we're not working on that project currently?
Yeah, so we're at the first stage. We're closing the west leg and the south leg. The reason we're doing full closures there is our contractor is going to get into that space and start clearing. A lot of trees, a lot of big trees that need to come down. Initially, we're going to try to keep it a short closure. As Brian mentioned, there may be a chance to open up intermittently for a little more local access. There's a fine balance in doing that because we don't want to flip flop back and forth constantly. I'd rather get a reliable message out to all of you so you know what to expect, when to expect it. But that initial stage is clearing and setting up the work areas. We also have a lot of utility relocation work that needs to happen. So that'll give the utility companies opportunity to get into that space, do their work, which has to happen before we can go build these giant bridges that we're working on. So that's a lot of what you're going to see in that initial phase, starting now.
At the end of this thing, I got a letter in the mail says that they're going to tear up the whole road all the way to Meadowglade. So when this construction is over, then you're going to have to worry about what they're going to do for widening the road. You already got the letter for that. So the traffic is not going to stop just because of that. So I just wonder how they're gonna manage it. I'm in the middle of where they did the construction earlier on 179th Street. And these people aren't obeying all the rules. Tigers and stuff that was out there sometimes there was 4 different constructions on my street. And some had flaggers, some didn't have flaggers. The signs are left up continually saying that things are closed and they're not closed. Sometimes they put the closure sign real close to where the thing is, so you gotta turn around in the middle of the road to go back the other way to go through it. They need to put the signs far enough ahead so there's some place to turn around other than in the middle of the road.
Yeah, I guess how I would address that, and maybe this is a good opportunity, I can introduce Kyle. Kyle's with Cascade Bridge. He's here with us tonight representing our contractor. So we're partnered with Cascade Bridge to get this work done. As far as the detour signs go and things that you're seeing as you're, driving out there, living out there, we've got a lot of resources and contacts for you to call, especially things like a sign, right? That's upside down, knocked over, twisted around somewhere, things like that. Our contractors do an excellent job of helping maintain their work areas, but these are big work areas. Things happen outside, especially to traffic control signage. And so if you're seeing things like that or just not making sense, it's a good time to pick up the phone, give Brian a call, give me a call, we've got Kyle's contact information on some of the resources you're getting. Let us know because we will know a lot. We don't know what to need. So we rely on your all eyes and ears to help out with making things go as smooth as we can. And Kyle, maybe just want to introduce yourself and say hello.
Yeah, I'm Kyle Valot. I'm the project manager for Cascade Bridge. I'll be on site pretty much every day. My phone number was included in the paperwork there, so you have a direct line to me. So there's a lot of local concerns, and we're gonna be the best neighbors we can be.
Yeah, I hate to look some of the other people's spot, but I think it'd be a good idea to have some of the members come and speak a little bit. But I just want to mention, I'm relatively new to the project, but with my time here at the county, there's a lot of history, especially for the Northeast 179th Street. There's a lot of things that happened in the past that maybe didn't work out as well. There's a lot of concerns. So I'm aware that there's a lot of history here. And we can't say we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, but there's a lot of coordination that needs to happen. My time here at the county, I can tell that there's a pretty strong effort to sort of improve communication and sort of iron out some of these issues that have happened in the past. If it's okay, if I could have maybe someone from PRESA or waste management to kind of just talk in general about how they see. I think it'd be really helpful and answer some of the questions that people have.
Hi, good evening. I'm Jason Fritz. I'm the Deputy Inspector of 911 Operations at Cresta. Thanks for having us here this evening. Really, for us at Cresta, it's kind of what Brian mentioned at the beginning of his presentation. It's really pretty simple. It's about communication. As long as the county, which the county has agreed to be the point of contact on this project to inform us, keep us informed of road closures, we anticipate things running pretty smooth. We have a lot of automated processes at Cresta. So on the fire and EMS side, things are dispatched automatically via response plans. The way they do that is we send the closest unit to the emergency. So as long as we are aware of road closures, where once a route may have been the quickest route, maybe it's not the quickest route anymore. So the closest unit is now maybe in a different location. The system can automatically do that. And then on the law side, law has access to all of the map updates when we put a red line where there's a road closure or something like that, as well as our dispatchers have that and are very experienced about giving law enforcement updated information as to, hey, a road's closed, you're going to want to approach from the east side or the south side or the north side. So as long as the communication is there and we have that piece in advance, things are going to run really smooth. This isn't the only project that we deal with in the county. We have lots of projects that are happening in the counties and the cities. We update our computer-aided dispatch all the time in all of our systems. So we're here and ready to assist. Clark Regional Emergency Services Agency. We're a consolidated emergency. We are your emergency management and we are your dispatch for Clark County. Yeah, I can't keep them all straight either. There's a lot of them in the state. So thank you. And we'll be around at the end of the presentation if you have any questions.
Yeah, sorry, Jen Spot. I know we're still in sort of the communication and coordination phase. But just if you could tell us briefly on sort of what you see and
Hi, everybody. I'm Joelle Locher. I manage the solid waste and recycling for the county. I don't have a lot of information for you other than we're going to be working very closely in coordination to make sure that there's access issues and any collection changes. We'll make sure to notify everyone. I can provide you my contact information as well. So I don't have much to share other than that. It's speaking of the project.
Also, we've reached out to the post office for coordination as well as Clark Fire. Somebody else, school district, thank you. The hardest time in a construction project, usually the very beginning, when we're out there rolling in, getting equipment set up, getting our contractor going, getting signs set up. That's usually when we want to make sure that if the garbage isn't being reached or the mail's not being delivered, we know about it as quick as possible. We focused outreach efforts with our partners on those service areas for the very reason that things do happen, but we want to be able to react quickly or at least provide response as quick as we can for whatever may come up. And so again, that's why you've got Kyle's information, you've got my information, you've got Brian, Scott, you've got a whole bunch of people who are all connected together and committed to helping deliver this construction as painless as possible. Construction is very challenging, I understand that.
So I have two questions. The first is, you mentioned phase A or 1A, again, street clearing. Those trees are on my property or former property.
I haven't received any contact from the county facility, so you said it was scheduled to start potentially next week. I was wondering when we will be hearing, you know, all coordinating that tree clearing, have them.
Sure. So for that, we do have a representative from our Real Property Services Department here tonight. Laura Sly, she's in the back there. It might be best, at the end of the Q&A here, if you connect with Laura, we go through an extensive, right-of-way acquisition process, either for easements or for.
Well, we did that already. I'm just wondering when I'm here, like when does the work actually start? Because that will affect our access potentially. I mean, that we, you know, we're formerly kind of attached to trees, so I want to be able to like let my wife know that they're coming down. That sort of stuff.
Oh, I understand. Okay,
Yeah,
sorry.
we already did the red wire.
Okay, got it. Closures start on the 25th of this month. I would expect, and Kyle, maybe you can help clarify, but the clearing activities are going to be real soon towards the end of the month and into September. So,
Yeah, we've got about 3 weeks worth of clearing. I can't tell you exactly when we're going to be on your property necessarily. Have a subcontractor doing that, looking availability, all that stuff. But in that 3 week period, we expect to do.
And sorry, that's 3 weeks starting on the 25th.
Starting on the 25th, yeah. And then within a day or two of that, get vote in, you know, there's a lot of things that have to happen there, but what property are you?
175. The driveway, yes, it's right before the bridge, where the bridge is going.
Okay.
Which actually ties into my third question. So I work from home, I'm not working during this project, but, my wife and kids are also very sensitive to sound. That, we live right on the creek that the bridge will be spanning on 29th there. It's already extremely like the road noise, like booms, like, you know, car like takes off down 29th, like you hear it. So, and then like the project that was just happening in the intersection, they were happening, you know, like metal things down, house was shaking, that sort of thing. You mentioned, potentially that you would be authorizing work on Saturday. I'm wondering like, what are the work hours and when are we gonna get a break? When can I, like, how will I coordinate like that with my family and make sure that, you know, everyone is not overwhelmed by just really loud sound coming through that gully basically, for the next 2 years.
Yeah, so work hours, between 7 and 3 typically. I think we do allow as late as 5 o'clock on weekdays. The windows narrow slightly on the weekends. We don't have authorization right now for weekend work. As Brian said, it might be something that we consider during particular work activities if we need to, and we'll coordinate that with Cascade Bridge. To the noise, yes, it's very noisy, as you can imagine. I would say the noise will probably vary depending on what work is taking place. You know, naturally, when we're doing bridge footings and we're setting all the foundations for that, that can be extra noisy at that time versus, you know, if we're pouring concrete, it's a little quieter, not too much, but one question, and maybe Kyle, does Cascade, do you have the backup audible, the mufflers on for backup equipment, like when you're hearing trucks back up, they make the audible beep? I don't know if you have that or not.
Yeah, a lot of our equipment does have the quieter tracks alarms. Our main dirt stuff has a lot of newer equipment, so they have. Yeah, sure, can't guarantee.
I think what we can commit to is making sure that through our social media platforms, through the work that Kaylee does and her team, is get you guys information, at least for those times when maybe we expect some heavier noise or heavier work or weekend work that could impact just the day-to-day living. And because yeah, I can imagine and understand that it's very noisy.
I'll go if that's okay. So I live right on 169. I'd just like to emphasize, I lived through the sewer project this winter. the waste services were really tough during that time. So I'd like to emphasize the communication there. A lot of times it would just be the driver who didn't feel confident driving past the finish line. And as a result, our traffic would be picked up for 2 weeks, which is tough. I'm also just wondering, what does local access mean? I live on 179th and I'm pretty much halfway in between 29th and 50th. So what should I do if I'm coming towards an intersection and I see local access? Should I take a detour? Should I try to go local? What should I do?
Sure. So to the first question about the solid waste pickup, that's part of the reason we have been working with Joelle and her team. They manage the contract for the companies that do the pickup. And so that's kind of our best line to communicate directly to those people. So we have talked about that particular issue. We'll continue that dialogue with Joelle, her team, and her contractors. And if you're finding, hey, it's happening again, what's going on? That's a good opportunity to reach out and say it's happening again. Yeah, then we can get Joelle and her team to investigate and dive into it. I'm sorry, can you remind me of that second question?
I'm not 79.
Oh, the local traffic?
Yeah, what's the local access mean? So I can take a detour or I can go, what should I do?
Yeah, I might, Steve, have you chime in on this one a little bit too, but when we say local access, we want to discourage people from driving through. So local access, if you live, right around the work area where it's happening, you're local, you get in there, we want to make sure that you have access to your house at all times. There will be times when you might see that, it's local access and I may be able to get through. I would urge caution just to make sure that you're following whatever the signs are telling you. If you're seeing road closed, period, road's closed. That's it. Local access, you can scoot into your house if it's right in the immediate area. But if your local access is on the other side of the job site, use the detour. Steve, did you have anything? Okay.
I was pleased to see that you were going to have your GPS folks at work. I know in the previous closure, we had a friend come to visit, and when we ran into that, we thought we were sent somewhere away, some pleasant. Anyway, I want to make sure that you do that on a routine and current basis, because it took a couple of days that last time they got that in the GPS system. So people can find their way if they have current information, and that should be done concurrently with any construction.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I would say something we've learned, and we continue to learn every project and find opportunities to get information to our partners and to you all in new and sometimes interesting ways. Thank you.
This is kind of piggybacking on Josh's question directed at Kyle over here. Again, we just lived through the sewer project, and what we found to help us was to have in a lot of cases, the superintendent, but in most cases, the foreman. We had daily communication, but we are going to do this today. They come to our door, they knock on the door, they say, hello. I live on the northeast corner, so this was going on every day. And that helps a lot, is to have that open-minded communication to talk about tree removal, talk about hammering, talk about dirt movement, talk about dust abatement. All of that stuff is important. And if we just have somebody that we can talk to every day, it's on site. It's a huge thing for us.
Say that they'll be your next best contact. They'll be on site every single day, barring vacation or, whatever.
And he'll be the one with the most up-to-date information, and we will do our best to
I know
communicate.
they're busy, but it's important to
Absolutely.
us to know what's going on.
Well, and it's important that we share that because we're gonna be dealing with you guys every single day. Well, you
You
know,
might have it on your construction site otherwise.
what's that?
You might have it on your construction site.
Well,
Sorry, well, I have one other, not really question. Something, are there any like planned outages and specific since
So I run business management work online. Might be something that I need to like plan around, there anything.
Probably best to expect intermittent outages, but not without some heads up for sure.
It's a pioneer.
Without knowing exactly which utilities are gonna be out there when, it's hard for me to give you timeframes right now. Trying to think our best way to communicate with you on that. We'll start to get a handle on which utilities are coming in here in the next few weeks. And there might be an opportunity where we could, communicate through our social media platforms or through our website, our project website. When we expect some utilities on site. The other thing is they have an obligation to notify for outage. The power companies, communications companies. So that's one of those things we do rely on them to do because they know the best when they're going to do it. So I think a combination of us getting information on our website about some utility work and then also they come knock on doors if it's an immediate impact to you. So it may be one of those things you get hours heads up, maybe a few days heads up, maybe longer, depending on their process for notifications. I don't know if anybody else in the room has any better knowledge about that.
He gives out the permits, correct? The contractors to do whatever jobs they're doing.
Yeah, we establish a contract.
I'd like to see that. Evidently didn't happen the last one. I live right square in the middle through 29th and 50th. Right on top of the hill. What happened was they were working construction down 50th, then they were working construction right in front of my house, then they were working construction down the bottom of the hill because they were putting 116 homes in there, and that they were working on the intersection over there. Now, somebody issued those permits to enter to block those roads or try to get flagmen. Some of them had flagmen, some of them didn't have flagmen. That's what I would like to see is if they're going to do that, is not to issue a permit. I can go east just as easy, a mile or so out of my way. It's not a big deal. But I can't go east if they're down there blocking that end too. That's what bothered me the last time was they kept blocking off different sections. They need to talk to these contractors because the one, of course, is gravel all over the road, great big rocks and everything. They come in, they sweep it up. They've done a pretty decent job of it. I don't have a problem with that. But if they're all doing it all at the same time, you can't get anywhere. Like I said, I know the intersection's going to be blocked. Obviously, you can't build a bridge. There's only so much you can do with it. But that's what I would like to see as a county, make sure that they don't issue permits for people to block that road the other direction. You're going to work at that intersection, work at that intersection. And because I can see already that on 29th, that's all going to be houses up that way. And then you're going to work on the other side, which is the bridge that goes over the deal. And so that has to go through. And of course, you got the 179th that goes underneath that too. And then under 29th, it goes underneath. So the only way you can go basically is east, kind of, if you're living in there anywhere, where you're not right in the middle of the construction. There's a few houses that are gonna be right square in the middle of it. Not much you can do. But it'd be nice to know if they have mission permission to stop me from going the other direction, which didn't happen the last time.
It's good feedback. I appreciate knowing about it. I can't promise that we won't issue permits for development because people come develop kind of on their own timelines, but I think what I can inform and commit to is that our project here on 179 and 29th will have a couple of our own inspectors on that job. We also do have inspectors that are on these private development projects like the ones you're describing. So they all sit in the same area of our county engineering building. So we do have an opportunity to coordinate amongst ourselves with that work and knowing when we have other permits happening. Sounds like maybe that collection hasn't been happening good enough. So that's, you know, an opportunity for us to take away from here and learn a little bit how we can help improve that coordination for them.
I'm gonna ask a few questions from the online participants, and then we may have time for a few more back in the room, and then our staff will be around for a while to have more conversations. How far west will 179th Street be closed?
I'd like to comment. What you need to do, you need to have one person who coordinates flow with all of your permitting on 179th Street. That way, this problem won't occur. And so you need to designate somebody that all of these subcontractors talk to about closures. And then that'll correct the problem.
Steve's flagging me down over there.
So in my department, I'm come through my department. So we know what the detour plan is. So we're not gonna let anybody close the road, especially in the detour plan. So we'll take care of that. Yep. Yeah, the question was how far west
Will 179th?
will 179th be closed? I need to bring up the map in my head. I want to say we're going a couple hundred feet. 26th Avenue, thank you. So we'll have a barricade there, a road closed sign. I don't know if that's going to be one that has a local access, but
That'd be local access to allow the, select number of properties within there and the intersection.
Okay.
Local access from there, but everybody else would use it.
Yep.
So there was a question about detour routes and increased road traffic on detour routes. And if that increased traffic will bring increased accidents, theft, etc. And if so, how will we address it?
So what we'll be doing is we'll be monitoring the detour routes. We'll be watching the traffic, see what the traffic, how much traffic's, use those detour routes, how much we increase traffic. And hopefully we can, of course, not guaranteed it's gonna be crashes, always happens, but hopefully we can keep that from happening and try to make those detour routes as safe as possible with signage and things.
School buses, my kid's bus uses 29th Ave and picks up in our driveway since there aren't any sidewalks north of the 179th cross street. This staging makes it look like the bus may not make it up our way. What's the plan with the school districts on bus service?
I mentioned earlier that we're doing coordination with school district for bus service. To answer that specific question, that might be one better served by an email, just so we can know exactly where that individual's talking about. We've communicated with Battleground and Ridgefield school districts for access through the detour areas to make sure that their routes are served, stops are served. It's one of those, again, if in this case, there's a particular circumstance, like the bus comes down my driveway that's right here. Those are best questions that would be email or phone call, so we can know exactly what the concern is and where it is.
Just gonna add just a little bit, not much, but
You.
it's just.
Oh.
Yeah, just wanted to add a little bit to that. Still ongoing meetings, but in our preliminary meeting and from having conversations with them, based on their experience with sort of construction, they have a general idea of specific locations for pickup and drop off, depending on the closures. Can't speak to them specifically where at this time, just from our conversations. Based on the closures, they have an idea of where pickup locations might be. There might be some sections where kids might have to be walked to a certain place, not too far from their residence. We just want to mention this school buses have a general idea of where pickup locations might be. Of course, we'll communicate that as we understand what the staging will look like. Okay.
Ask if there are any last.
It looks like we're just about time. Do we have any? Yes.
So, earlier, Ryan, you said that there was gonna be a moratorium. No, this didn't meet the standards for moratorium on permit building, for building permits. He has planning and transportation to have a conversation with the permit department and hearings examiners in regards to how this 2-year closure may affect somebody's traffic. There's 110 houses that just got approved 5 blocks away. There's maybe almost 100 houses that is potentially going to be up for examination at Cozy Manor directly across from that 110 houses. Has anybody from planning or transportation had a conversation with permitting and the hearing examiners for them to consider that when they are looking at somebody's traffic sequence report?
Can't say I can speak to that specifically.
I mean, my pivot point just to add to this, I understand your question, understanding that it's 2 years worth of impacts. I will say the impacts are not all exactly the same for that little 2-year time. We'll have different phases where we have different closures, things. And so it's kind of hard to measure, exactly what the impacts are relative to development and how developments need to account for this. It's kind of a chicken or egg thing. We're building this because development's happening like crazy. And so it's kind of guys, go get this done as fast as you can because we need it to serve. So to answer your question, I don't know if that coordination specifically between planning and permitting has happened. I will say that the coordination probably happens more on the backside, like Steve mentioned earlier, with coordinating once that permit's in. Do we have an issue with the detour that we need to address at some point wherever we're at construction? So there's an opportunity for coordination. I don't know how much of it's happening up front, but we do have channel there.
It's about done, but we're gonna have some staff kind of hanging around. I'll be hanging around if there's. Thanks again for coming. It's good to see everyone participate and